All right. Hey, Peter.
How's it going?
Good. Can you hear me clearly? I was having some mic issues earlier.
I can hear you perfectly. You are good to go.
What's happening on your end?
Oh my God, I've had visitors, so I'm recovering from summer.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it is good. Really nice people, and they have two kids, so we did the whole go to the beach and do all the stuff that I think eight and 12. And so it was really a lot of good food. My friend Jake's wife's Yoko's Japanese, and she's a chef, so she makes these amazing meals. So yeah, it was good food, lots of kids, but I can definitely feel myself recovering after it.
That's good. Hey, Kathleen, how are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. So otherwise, just chipping away and
Morning,
getting
guys.
organized.
Sorry, what was that, Kathleen? I missed what you said.
Oh, I just said morning. Well, for
Yeah,
me, it's morning.
morning. Yeah, officially afternoon now over here. And working out all the things. I don't know how much the messaging or invites related to this are going out. I think I need to figure out how effective my mail out automation machine is, because I don't think it is that effective. So
I
yeah,
was thinking I might take some effort to start sharing your invites. I mean, if that's
yeah, please
okay with
go ahead.
you.
Absolutely, I'd appreciate that. Like we've talked about before, the more the merrier. And something I read yesterday was the effort for dual use companies in Canada trying to seek traction and get to market with the increased defense spending. And just that's the machine. Those are the areas I see that have the greatest potential in the work I'm doing, that what we're working talking about, and really what's needed. And this forum to be able to help people understand how to work with different levels of government, especially the federal government and procurement,
Yeah.
procurement machine. So I think what we're doing here, what we're talking about, is on point for what's needed.
Well, it I agree, and frankly, the intricacies of procurement are quite interesting for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, from so many perspectives,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
internally the mechanisms to just be able to feed into the machine, so
yeah.
understanding supply arrangements, and um, even how to apply to the different competitions and what's available. So if it's on the defense side and the ideas piece, the what was in this Globe and Mail article that I shared with Peter was an organization called the Icebreaker. Still not clear on who they are, but they're tied with CCI. I don't know if you know any more about this, Peter, in terms of CCI's support to people, or are they? I'm just not sure how effective CCI is in helping small medium businesses get to market, to commercialize, to do business with government. I know Peter's shared his thoughts about CCI and how what the, how they're who's influencing them and what sort of, I guess,
You're
horsepower.
talking about Canadian Council of
Correct.
Innovators? Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I understand it, and I talked to Ben, say 6 months ago, is that they're a self-funded organization that makes their revenue by offering training programs that and memberships, and it's CEOs of scaled technology companies, so uh, not startups, but companies in the market, and they're lobbying um, provincial and federal government um, to just be more in line with the Canadian tech companies. So I would say they're lobbying for small business that are tech centric.
That's not a bad idea.
Not startups. That's the differentiation, and that's, I've said this before. That's one of the issues in Canada is we need to really think about language, because a lot of people confuse those two. They just kind of say they have this like bucket called startup, and I really noticed it with the startup visa. It's actually not a startup visa; it's a scale up visa, and it's mislabeled. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They were actually quite upset because they couldn't get into it because they were pre-revenue.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, we really are actually causing a, a problem.
I,
Hmm.
I'm I'm still waiting to hear back from this fellow I was telling you folks about, working at, and I think it's a software program for risk, for capturing and tracking risk, which quite frankly, uh, that would be good for anything.
Yeah,
And well, I mean, his focus is on housing projects, but my God, I mean, there is risk in everything that we do, and it's getting so much more complex because there are so many parties that need to be considered, and so many factors that so I've reached out to him to see if we can have a conversation about that, um, and where he sits with his program. So
Hmm.
right. Is it in market or is it still being developed?
I think it's still being developed.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, yeah, I think it has tons of potential, that's for sure.
Well, on that note, let me share something that I've been working on over, I'd say, years. Uh, so I've been working on an operating and management framework that ultimately is being built for streamlining value creation, and it's taken principles from all all the best frameworks. So if it's lean, agile, Rendenhui, TQM, IPD, in how to really bring people together at the forefront, having that matrix. Peter talks about collapsing the hierarchy, which is going to be a painful transition as people realize or companies realize this has to happen, but then the decision makers are all part of that hierarchy. So it's not going to happen quickly. And this is a massive document, and IP I really want to protect. But I'm going to let me just scroll down to a couple of the annexes because it's same thing with what here, and here's the problem, and this solution is the answer where you look at these methodologies and getting the certifications. You need to it's a machine for these organizations to be able to sell their education. And then for the companies to get certified in it, it takes a certain level of effort every year to jump through the hoops to say we are X certified and tens of thousands of dollars. And this includes ISO, the different B Corp principles. I think it's ISO 9001 or 90,001, whichever is the management or governance piece, but it's taken all that and I've built it to essentially, to me, everything is risk management, right? You go when you cross the street, you look left, you look right, then you cross. It's risk management. Every decision you make emotionally based, logically validated. Um, and what I want to do, and this is creating towards the SaaS model I'm envisioning, is that you have a certain set of criteria that identifies the health of your organization, being industry agnostic. It identifies what I'm looking to do is there's healthy metrics that if you're within this range for these specific metrics, then you're good. If you shift out of it, so when you load in your monthly P&L and it updates the information and shows where your company stands, and what I'd like to see happen is then a call is automatically booked with the right OPI. So the CFO and the client company with someone on this side to be able to address what's happening and quickly course correct, as opposed to quarterly updates of risk registers, having this bureaucratic process. If they're doing it, that works, but ultimately you're not correcting for 6 months at fastest. So let me just share this. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep.
So just like running a project, running at the governance, the a stewardship charter, my framework's called integrated stewardship, and having the metrics of who's responsible for overseeing what metric, what healthy looks like, and then actions to be taken. And so this not only just helps keep companies operationally effective with conditions built in that look at the local economy. And the win-win-win I'm looking to make is with the company or organization, with the staff, and then with the area, the stakeholders that they directly affect in their community. And look at the different metrics of what that looks like, and the RACI tables for who does what, and wait, wrong appendix. Where's the one with? And it's all about risk. So again, being able to just get that quick dashboard or visual of this is where you're at, where to correct, and uh,
Who would be your target audience?
really, it's the enterprise and large companies have their own systems and won't be interested in this because this is how we've always done it. Um, this is for small medium businesses that are that have revenue, and then being able to just follow this model very simply, cleanly.
Mhm.
The governance, these are the metrics, healthy ranges, and then the guiding principles of being able to follow the processes for the check, do, or plan, do, check, improve, or plan, do, check, act per TQM, and just shorten that corrective action cycle so that the people that are interfacing directly with clients or end users are getting that real-time feedback and having the mechanisms to feedback for continual improvement, because the landscape is changing so quickly for every company because of AI and economic risks. How do you manage it all and not? I find risk management becomes overcomplicated with having it held under a certain body. Then it goes to the chief audit or through the CFO, then to the chief audit officer, and then to the board. How do you make it easier? Just a live data dashboard that gets updated, that gives a health health status, and the organization knows what needs to be addressed. So those are the principles behind all of this, and incrementally building it out. But this then feeds everything else. So if it's the um, post-secondary PSI, post-secondary institutions, and the chief entrepreneur officer, effort that Peter and I have talked about. I don't know, Kathleen, if you heard any of those discussions we've had, but how to make it a risk-free. Yes, you have, because we were talking about this before, but that risk-free opportunity to have us work with post-secondary institutions to leverage the technology that's coming out of it to bridge into industry and have the flow of human capital into industry to and then the real-time feedback so that post-secondary institutions are actually relevant. And the carrot for them is the lack of foreign student money that was coming in until this year with a change in our immigration policy. They're going to start hurting unless they've got massive endowment funds. Or
Yeah, no, they already are hurting.
they are, and it's not being talked about in terms of how do you stay relevant with people leading these organizations that have next to no real life experience in industry.
Right. Hey, you know what? I'm reaching out to the University of Ottawa. Um, I'm an alumni, but I'm wanting to suggest to them to actually include in their MBA program um, some coursework on running uh, industrial manufacturer businesses, right? Because we're trying to transition in the building industry much, much more into modular, industrial, whatever. And this isn't just for housing. This is just we have to get the construction industry into the 21st century
Yes.
and just really, really improve on their productivity. So, but it takes a different mindset. And colleges, in particular, are usually where people go to learn about the trades.
Yes, and that's
But
what I was going to say. Why not a college versus the
it could
university?
be, accepting that my experience with colleges is the instructors are from the 1940s, and they really don't understand that much about industrialized construction and what it needs to look like and or should look like. So they're not the best at leading into the future. They are teaching history.
Hmm.
So that's a problem. But it's not just understanding the tools and understanding how to use the tools in whatever. It's really understanding the business concept because there's actually been modular companies around for a long time. Like Katura is probably the best well known. It had billions invested in it. And it tanked in such a short period of time. That had everything to do with not understanding the business. And so you can certainly understand how to industrialize things that you built, and that's part of it. But it's the whole flow stream of business, right? It can't be up, down like that. So how do you smooth it out? How do you actually market this thing? How do you, how do you knit it together with everything else going on? And that's a business thing. And that's where I think well, colleges have business courses too, but
It's,
that's really, I think hooking those two things together is so important.
hmm. And how do you see it working with the University of Ottawa in terms of,
Their MBA program, it's actually their executive MBA program. So, um, I mean, people join that program at any stage in their career, including me. And so they come there with all kinds of knowledge and all kinds of experience, but it would be a particular focus. That MBA program is also very focused on technology. Connecting those two is really important too. So it's just it needn't be, and they may not be interested, but I'm throwing it out there to get some feedback.
have you considered BCIT?
I haven't, but why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I really think those um what do you call them? Those technological institutes. There's this a work for that style of academia. The BCITs that are more about practical application, where
Yeah.
they're bridging college and, you know,
Polytech.
Polytech. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's actually it's a good match. I mean, my MBA program, we spent a lot of time in San Francisco, connecting with all kinds of tech companies. We did an international session. That was kind of like our final whatever. And we went to Warsaw actually. So um, we were in groups. The whole thing was in groups. So I really, really, really liked the structure of that program. And actually, I'm still in contact with my group members, at least a couple of them today, even. It's been like 20 years. But so we had a client and we went to Warsaw and met with people in that industry and connected business between, options in Poland with our client in actually in Ottawa. So, but that's just the way that program is structured. So but the amount of technology needed for industrializing construction is huge. I mean, there's a lot of machinery that's already out there that, most companies don't have. And those are machines just to do the physical work, but it's the technology as well to do the planning work and everything else. So,
That was interesting, that note you sent through email about the financial side of it. I had a conversation with an entrepreneur like 3 days before you sent that,
oh,
that explained to me that people can't finance manufactured homes, and he was looking for bridge financing, or a way to offer them financing, because he has to build the house in his warehouse, sell it
right.
to them before they can actually pay for it. So I thought that was serendipitous, but that is actually a pretty serious bottleneck
Yeah.
in the constraint of modular housing or manufactured housing. It's
Well, and
interesting that you say that about the training, because you're right. Like, I wouldn't have thought about that until you said it, but you're right that there's a lack of kind of understanding from soup to nuts. That the awareness campaign has to evolve. And we just got, actually, you were talking about BCIT. We just government just built or funded a huge mass timber um,
right.
student housing project. And
Yes.
so, they're bullish on mass timber, and they're using the universities to do these pilot projects, but nobody's really talking about residential, housing, whether the government just doesn't want to support single family housing, or they can only handle one thing at a time. But,
It's
but there's a serious awareness campaign that's missing.
Hmm.
I'm actually working at, I should get some software for this, but I'm just working at a systems map to put all this in there. And then I'm going to throw it out on a LinkedIn uh, message because so many of the folks in this space are actually on LinkedIn and they're global, which is really good. But with an invitation to weigh in on this because
Yeah,
system maps should never be done by one person. So I'm going to be
no.
quite provocative by doing it and then saying, okay, this is just a teaser. Like, I mean, it should be done in a group together, but just to get the thinking visualized because we are a visual industry and, so much more uh, understanding happens when you can actually see it. So,
Mm.
Yeah, 100%. Let me know when you figure out what software to use. I'd be curious what's actually usable and accessible. I wonder if there's anything in the open source domain.
shit, I subscribe to systems innovation, and so they were profiling a bit of a software. I think it was Mira,
Yeah.
MIRI.
Yeah, I've got Mira. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was using that to start drawing systems maps.
Right. But again, they're static. Like I always
Yeah,
think, what if
it has
we,
to move.
what if you sent every patient and the family member when they leave the hospital so they could, look at the process map of patient care and then,
Yeah.
put in their things that worked and didn't work, like I mean there's such an opportunity for that.
Oh man, you're
But
so
it
right.
has to be done visually. People aren't going to do it through text.
I'm also following the healthcare industry, and I am because of its complexity and the connections with the building industry. They're both very complex. I mean, one is buildings, which, is less mystic, at least in my mind. Health, on the other side, I mean, it's the science of bodies and life and stuff like that, which to me is very complex. But they are going through the need to restructure the whole thing. So I'm really watching
Yeah.
NHS in the UK, and I'm connected with just on LinkedIn with some folks here in Canada who are also doing that. They too are systems thinkers, which is really good. They actually have some background in lean, which is really good. Although I've met people with backgrounds that never use it, so
Right.
I worry
Yes.
about that too. But no, so this is I think very useful to actually have some cross-pollination between different industries and just to get a sense of how how other people are looking at things and whether or not that might have application. But so that's that's just general interest. But yeah, I think that well, what's in Ottawa? Algonquin College is in Ottawa as well, right? So
Algonquin.
yeah. At any rate, I mean, there are lots of colleges, and that's where the practical trades kind of things happen. And I'm not sure how much technology. It's been a while since I've worked at a college, so I'm not sure how advanced they are. I have to say, I've not ever found post-secondary education advanced. I've found a lot of people involved, so I don't know, planted in the past. So I would never, which to me was just absolutely mind-boggling. It was ironic. I couldn't, I struggled with that. But you're a learning institution, but yet you're just entrenched in the past. History's good, yeah, but
Yeah, I'd say Algonquin College and BCIT, along with the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology and George Brown College being the top four institutes to look at for um, good construction related training or teaching.
hmm,
And I've got a problem with modular because of especially what you're talking about, Kathleen, in terms of the front end capital requirements to build up a factory. Then how do you ROI on it along with how do you satisfy supply and the logistics of getting it out to the different communities to build? What is that?
like like she said, it's very complex.
It is. It is. Where does it become inefficient past a certain what radius and how do you get this
Right.
stuff out and what is the demand that you need over X amount of years to make it viable? Um,
well, yeah, no, those are excellent questions. And frankly, in terms of demand, we are in this demand right now and will be for years and years. And the complexities around housing, and I've thrown it out to the participants already. We can't just think about, young people needing a home to raise a family. There's a whole lot of boomers sitting in single family homes in suburbia that,
Right.
that no longer that doesn't meet their needs anymore, nor should it. And yet, so we have to look at the whole continuum here. And this issue with housing supply and demand has a long horizon, which fits into a modular very well. And it needs to, well, so this is the architect and me talking about this, but you have to think about requirements and you have to think in terms of environmental things because whether people want to admit it or not, we are getting into some really serious weather events. We're getting into
Right.
very serious energy events, and we have to plan for that. So that can be easily built into a modular off-site construction situation. So whether it's volumetric, I worry about that because just transportation constraints, or whether it's panelized. And frankly, how this goes back to the 80s. I was working at parks, and part of what we were having to do was provide housing for various employees, and of course they're in parks, so they're they're really in remote places. So I had to, my job was to get some housing into Pangnirtung on Baffin Island. And so ultimately, I was working with this architectural firm, and they put me onto this modular company, and they did insulated metal panels. And so that's what we did. We used that as the basic construction. They built all these panels, put it on a ship because that's the only way you can get things up there. And because it laid flat, it was very efficient. That house went up in like 5 days. It was amazing. So, also a constraint was the lack of construction knowledge and talents within these communities. That's just not, it's not there, right? So then we had to, of course, bring in a crew. So that meant this was easy, you know. We also, though, put the foundations in the year before because we just did screw piles into permafrost and that allowed them to freeze in place. So that was great. But you know what? That was a perfect solution. I had to get some housing up to, oh, this was in northern Manitoba, to a reserve. And there again, there was no construction knowledge on the reserve, unfortunately. I think everyone should be focused on getting some training. But so we hired this company and federal government, there was a requirement to get Aboriginal interest in procurement. I mean, that was part of the requirement. So that was a requirement. So this contractor hired locally whoever he could find of Aboriginal origin, built these houses. And so this was a volumetric solution, and then transported them up to this remote area because that made the most sense in that case. So,
You become an expert in remote work with all these experiences.
well, I have actually. So,
Yeah,
well, I wouldn't know about expert, but I have lots of experience in that.
those are
Yes,
real problems.
I've uh, I've traveled and worked in everywhere in this country. Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool.
But
But there does seem to be a lack of focused kind of public sector motivation around this sort of stuff. Like the more you
yeah,
talk, the more I think, yeah, you're right. Like it's not a priority, even though the headline's still just a headline. Housing is an issue. Housing is an issue. Like it's like the red light's been going on for 2 years now, and
yeah.
nobody's actually talking about any of this stuff or allowing that kind of critique where is the bottleneck in this model? And
Well,
this is the only conversation I've ever heard.
I found it fascinating as well that it is a global issue. So then I start thinking, okay, what are some of the, similarities globally between different countries? And there are a number of them for sure. And so this problem has about a dozen tenants to it. And
Hmm.
in the systems map, you have to show all of that because they do have influence. They create risk or not. But so one of the huge influences is actually urban planning and the kind of urban planning that's happened in North America. It's also I was actually just talking to my brother about this the other day. He travels a lot. He's a landscape architect, but he works for whitewater parks. So they install water parks globally. So he was telling me his impressions of different countries that I've not yet been to, although I know people there, but I've not been there and seen it myself. So he was telling me that, oh, yeah, yeah, even Britain has the same urban planning approach as North America and such. But so it's all vehicle based, it's suburbia, it's spread out forever. And we're getting to the point where all the infrastructure that was put in place for that, most of it's out of sight and it is out of mind. So it's reaching the end of its service life. We're getting close to it. And so this connects then to the um, the infrastructure that needs to support housing and the shape that it's in and so on. So like I won't go over it now, it's lengthy, but all of these things interconnect. And so that's why I'm thinking, Henish, that your capture of elements of risk and aligning it is really important because everyone probably works in a specific area in this big picture and they don't see what's going on around them. And this is also, it's a timed event. So it doesn't have time to travel up and down hierarchies. Forget about it. We need to flatten this right out.
Yes. Yeah, and a couple comments on that, and just how I've thought out and what I've explored in terms of how to accelerate housing and leveraging modular is if you're doing that factory capital intensive initial build out is creating those flat packs that can
Yep.
get shipped everywhere. And the best models,
The IKEA house.
Yeah, why
Sears
not?
has. So Sears from
Yep.
19 to 20, 30s, 40s, Sears had a housing kit. You get a DIY.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's the only way where it makes sense, where you're not being, where it doesn't become cost prohibitive with the shipping and logistical elements, and being IKEA friendly, where this is what you need. You can do this yourself, but you need these professionals to get your stamp, to electrical authority and all that. That's one piece. And I think modular is such a challenging. It's great in theory, but how can you make it so that it is actually effective? Now, the other piece was a few years ago, the Liberal government announced a few changes. So even with the elimination of requiring a site plan if you're building anything under 10 units, but and then sharing the development costs, but it's still really cumbersome. And the timelines, if we're not committing to service standards for timelines of the developer puts in an application and can guarantee to be this large, and this comes back to, this long, coming back to risk, then the carrying cost for the developers is predictable and there's a greater appetite for people to enter into the market and provide the supply. But the way it's going is it's a crapshoot. It's going to take 18 months with the city of Ottawa, for example, before you get a review.
See, this is really the complexity that I've kind of I keep landing on. It's this whole municipal thing. And
It
so,
is. That's the roadblock.
yeah, it's huge.
Other curious thing was the support for taking World War II style housing to accelerate builds or housing starts and increase supply. And I dug into them. I'm like, why hasn't anything come out of this? No one's building these.
Uh,
And you follow the money. Who's winning? Who's losing? who's winning? Anyone who buys this house because it's less expensive, it's faster, it's prefab, you don't need architectural
Yeah, you do it
drawings.
once and then it's done.
So then why aren't these happening? It's because who's losing? The municipality isn't getting the revenue from all the permitting. They're not getting increased property taxes from a larger dwelling. You don't have the contractors willing to take these jobs on because it's just not worth it. It's a small job. And so realize this is why there's no traction because the ecosystem isn't winning. The end user wins. So again, coming back to my framework and over the years, the only time things work is when everybody wins. So setting up that win-win-win methodology. So I for everything, every decision, I'm always thinking follow the money, look at it. That's why our prime minister made this decision and understanding through a lot of digging and deep research of what his relationships are, what his assets that aren't reported are, and how this furthers a different agenda as opposed to whatever their campaign promises were. So it's and
Humans are awesome.
what's that?
Humans are awesome.
Humans are awesome. Yep.
But you know what? It's funny is as I'm listening to you list these things off, and you're right about all of it. But you know what? Money is as important to humans as oxygen is. So if there is no money, there is nothing happening. So it's also follow the money because that's where the oxygen is, right? So
It is.
it
Everybody, I
has
don't care what anyone says, money is a tool. And if you're full of shit if you say it doesn't matter to you, because without it,
totally.
you don't have the security, the financial, the mental stability, and you're preoccupied with how you're going to cover your bills and care for your loved ones. If you have enough, it's not a problem. But
So that was the other global issue that's really behind all of this. And it's the what neoclassical economic system that's been in place since Reagan, Thatcher, so on. So nothing has trickled down. In fact, frustration has roared up because there are too many monopolies and too much concentration of wealth in too few places. And that's created tons of frustration out there. So those two things are actually the biggest drivers of this housing issue right now.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and wealth divergence. That Reagan's decisions and his policies really shifted that. So CEOs are earning 300x that of the worker in the company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even well, that's a whole discussion all on its own
But
economic
that's
thing. But
ultimately is the driver for how people make
right,
decisions is how do
right.
they get compensated? How does board compensation happen? How does shareholder compensation
Yeah.
happen as opposed to taking care of the holistic value creation for the company, the community, and society instead of just focused on C-suite and
Yeah, totally. And but that's also why I'm a huge proponent, well, actually for many reasons, but I'm a huge proponent of middle density. I'm not a fan of suburbia for many, many reasons. Although here I am stuck on a mountain in the middle of 3 acres.
that's nice.
But I'm a huge proponent of the missing middle. I think we need more density. I think we need mixed use in our cities
Yes,
and not
agreed.
just, well, there's downtown, drive down there, and there's where people live, suburbia. Forget about it. We need to mix this up. I'm a fan of European cities because they were designed and built at a different time.
Exactly.
And that was like most of it's pre-vehicle, and I'm a huge proponent of public transit. I
Yes,
love trains. I
that's
just
what
love trains.
yes. That's what I was going to say is that when you have that increased density, the investment in infrastructure for cities
Yeah.
becomes affordable. You can have mass transit that works because you're not trying to cater to the outskirts of land banked new developments because those land bankers have the planners in their pocket and bringing people together and then having the other essential resources that the amenities that they need for physiotherapy, for this, for that,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's
I
easily
think
quantified.
it's critical as well that not citizens need to understand the different responsibilities of different levels of government. But
Yes,
governments need to understand that too. Like, quite frankly, I think that the role of the federal government, while what Carney's trying to do is important and helpful, but really, you know what? It should be directed towards funding infrastructure. And that too is also the responsibility of the province. Now, the province is in there creating all kinds of different policies on what municipalities can do. And then it even allows that some municipalities can create some of their own rules. And I'm just going, no, stop with the rules already. So that's why I want to talk to your dad.
I was going to say standardization wins.
Yeah, well, and there's no need for all this complexity, and it just really boggles my mind. When they finally talked about removing barriers to interprovincial trade,
Yeah.
I'm just going, yes, because so my business partners, they're both engineers, they're in Saskatoon, I'm here in BC. It doesn't matter. What we do is goes everywhere, and we have across this country. But why do we need national organizations and then provincial? Like,
It's redundant.
it's ridiculous. And then it really it stops interprovincial work.
Mhm.
So, like, I've had this experience when I worked with the Alberta government, and even the government's shaking their head at why is this all we want, engineers and architects to be applying for some of our tenders from BC, not just Alberta. So here's the government that puts in place these blockages is
Yes.
also suffering from it.
And
That's
that's
crazy.
in my my dad's extremely knowledgeable, and he thinks, and I think this is the problem with everybody that I was lucky to learn early on is logic doesn't sell. It's a bit where who's being hindered, how it's being hindered, what that pain is, and how it's going to keep hurting them, and then being able to bring up the any solution. So going in with logic, saying if this happened, it just simplify things. There'd be one code. There'd be more mobility. People can work interprovincially. No one cares. If you talk to them about impact to cost, less people entering into the construction industry, where stats are for every 100 people leaving, less than 20 are replacing them, and the need to simplify things and build up this industry with the shift in thinking and models to look at collaboration, at unification or standardization of codes, processes, bylaws, and just go with
Well,
highest.
we just mentioned it. Like, what's in it for me?
That's it. Everyone,
It's the
everyone's
moolah.
thinking, and it's not. And then in my business and in learning sales, it's not about, say you and I both care about people, but ultimately selling something that benefits everybody to you that are your avatars or your clients won't care. I have to speak to your business and how it benefits you in terms of increasing revenue. That's it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. That's so true. I,
it's
I think that
getting down to the precise language and target of what we're addressing before you can open up listening. Otherwise, it just falls on deaf ears, which is what my dad's been experiencing. This is dinner time conversations with him when I go over of, well, um,
oh, great. I'm really looking forward to getting his insights on this for sure.
yeah, I'm excited for that conversation for the two of you because when you just outlined that in that message, I'm like, okay, you need to speak to my dad because he is very passionate about this and to the point where he spends his free time petitioning or going over to the National Research Council where he sat down with the director and a few of the managers to say, listen, you can fix this backlog if you do these things. And of course, I came back, I'm like, let me guess. No one took notes and they're just staring at you, waiting you to finish and leave. And he's like, yeah, I expected.
What's fascinating is that so the guy I was telling you about that's working at this risk software, he's actually a former CMHC person. And so here's your dad, former National Research Council. So there's a lot of really smart yet frustrated people that have been in all kinds of different government roles in
Yes.
some fashion and frustrated with the system
Yeah.
and looking for ways to improve it from the outside. Fascinating.
And I met with someone yesterday afternoon who works at CMHC and is also completing his CPA designation. And for his final project, or one of his projects, is implementing a way to be able to pull the data for all the transactions that are happening at CMHC. And he was voicing some of the same challenges and inefficiencies and how he wants to change it. So if there's a need for all of you to connect, I'd be happy to connect you with him. So his
Wow.
come is to be able to match people who apply to that, go through the MLI Select and have borrowings with CMHC and then reporting back in. And so collecting or establishing what data needs to be measured, how to collect it, how to consolidate it, how to get the outside party and the CMHC account matched together. So he's got some really good insights of just how the whole machine works.
Oh man, you know what? This is great. I think this is very exciting because there are some really smart people out there.
There are.
We just need to invite them to join the chorus, join the
They
orchestra.
do. They just need, and it's creating hope because I think a lot of people are completely apathetic or resigned from trying to the others who want to. If they know that there are other proponents that care, it's the beginning of a movement, right?
Yeah. Well,
Making government efficient from the outside in.
just for some more thinking in that line, I'm actually I'm talking to some software people because everyone's just like, oh, AI, AI. Okay, let's AI this problem because organizations, whether they're federal, provincial, or municipal, have storage rooms of policy. It's all on the books. No one's ever read it. They don't know where to find it, but it just stymies
Yes.
progress. And it's just layered up over the years. So we need AI. They need AI to grab all of that stuff, go through it, find the conflicts, of which there are many, throw it out, organize it, and be able to access it. Then we also need, we as citizens, we need for our municipalities to have all of their infrastructure, their zoning, everything digital. Because right now it's hard copy. Like they're probably using CAD, maybe, but it's not easily accessible. So, I mean, I just know some, they're smaller examples. It doesn't matter though. Like technology is there for everybody. But where they didn't even have a clue where their water and sewer lines were. Now, how can you have a municipality with that lack of knowledge, right? Yeah. So
But I bet Enbridge knows all the municipalities' infrastructure, subterranean infrastructure better than the municipalities do.
probably. So, but I hadn't thought of that. You're on point here because part of the infrastructure for every community is also power.
Yes.
Not all of it's on poles, which is a good thing. But so there's probably different groups that have thorough information and others that don't, but about the collective that needs to come together. So there's an opportunity there as well.
Wow. I feel that's criminal. That's negligent to not understand
It's
that.
also very expensive.
And that's the other piece is life cycle maintenance of this because
But
it's
when you think of it, so a political term is usually 4 years. And so you get local politicians. Well, of course, that makes sense. They're local, they get voted in. They don't have a foggy clue. And then they don't have information that will enlighten them. And they're their administrative person, their head administrative person, is not necessarily the you know, sharpest knife in the drawer either. And so, firstly, you have this administrative fiefdom, and then you have politicians who respond to the most recent noise.
That's
So,
it.
and
That's
they're
they're fighting fire.
short-term thinking of 4 years, if even that. And so I find that astounding. It's
This is
just,
why infrastructure renewal is going to bite us in the ass because most of the suburbs are created post World
yeah.
War II. All the big infrastructure was laid out underground is beyond its life, and no one's talking about it. Our property taxes are going to double in the next 5 years.
Well, and that's the other part of this too, right? Out of sight, out of mind, and then the whole process right now of development, foisting all of the development charges on developers. Well, frankly, the developer passes that on to whoever buys or rents. So let's get real. And that is not how it should be funded. It should be funded through taxes because everybody benefits from it. But when you don't know what the hell you're doing, you don't know what the hell you're sitting on, you don't know how the hell it works, and then it's
And,
mind-blowing.
and that should be built into their capital plan.
Of course,
It-
they
it-
don't have a capital
it-
plan.
this is part of that problem is
Yes.
medium and small municipalities just are living ad hocly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, locally, I chit chat with some of the workers just because they're there. And I also chit chat with some citizens who've tried to interact with the municipality. It's it's startling. It's really startling. The people that work there, I mean they need a job, so they work there and they shake their head. It's a small community and they go, I don't know what's going on. I was just told to show up here and do this. And I go, what? What? Don't you guys sit down and have a conversation? Like, what?
And
Crazy.
it starts with leadership and how everyone's incentivized to,
Of
they
course.
aren't incentivized. So the culture is everything. If you have good leadership and it's about doing better and being better, then you get those
Totally. No,
employees.
but that's why, again, I think you guys are on the right track because looking at flattening organizations, then you can have these conversations. Not that you couldn't before, but I think it encourages more of this, and it encourages more sharing of not just knowledge but ideas and working together more, all of that. So
It's that the need for cross pollination is so
yeah,
important, and everything
exactly.
is so badly siloed in government at within an organization or department, and then between them they don't know how to operate, and at the political level there's zero understanding of how to get results because say for housing you've got ESDC that owns CMHC, you've got Industry Canada for innovation and National Research Council, you've got these other organizations that all come together for a national housing strategy, but they can't work together, they don't know how to execute.
I know that's weird. We have to help them with that.
And that's what I did try to do that with some outreach in the past, but for just the global good. And I think I wasted a lot of time and money trying to do that as I started my entrepreneurial journey, full-time entrepreneurial journey. But now I'm doing it with clients. So it's today I actually just clients sent off letters to D&D and PSP and Public Works, so National Defense and Public Services, Procurement Canada, or whatever their new name is, about Canadian Forces Housing Agency housing solution, based on where they're failing, what's in the media, what's hurting forces members, lack of retention. So creating that carrot and being able to
And
put
I
ladder.
think I like your idea of actually writing to politicians as well.
Hell
Then
yes.
they have people reading their stuff.
Hell yes. Get nowhere with the bureaucrats, nowhere, because that just means more work for them. And don't copy the deputy on anything he sent to the minister either, because then they'll start briefing down and then they'll get the response saying how it's a bad idea. Don't. You just
Well,
want
I was so naive just because I had been there. So that we had an issue here with the provincial government. So we have an association. So I wrote a letter but I addressed it to two deputy ministers, but it was pointing out the ridiculousness of what they were doing and how on the ground it made zero sense. In fact, it made them look goofy. Never heard back.
Of course,
So, you know, but if when I was deputy minister, if I received a letter like that, I tell you, I'd be jumping all
because
over
you're
it.
conscientious and you care, and have it. Here's hold on, I just got it. I have to remember the name of what it. They recently changed the name of this. The man. Actually, give me a second. I can't do two things at once. So it's how you motivate them based on how they're measured. And for example, ministers or departments are measured by, okay, so the deputies measured for their at-risk bonus and their performance bonus based on a few things. So the management accountability framework, now called the risk and compliance process, I need to write that down, is that measurement. And so being what I do is look at where they're failing in terms of the public lens, because risk to reputation is the main thing, and then being able to quantify the financial risk based on where they're not performing, and showing their management accountability framework assessment results, because annually they get assessed on certain areas of management. So financial, um, risk, people management. It used to be the entire spectrum, but then it became these will be done annually, and every X periods will assess this. And that's done by the Treasury Board Secretariat. And so this goes up to ministers of the Treasury Board who ministers report to. So that's that carrot of deputies. Yes, get assessed based on that, but where people care is when you just are able to tell politicians or cabinet ministers, this is what you said in your we don't do this anymore, mandate letters. So Trudeau had mandate letters for everybody. So based on this, or based on their campaign promises, and then I align it with the federal budget, because there's hard money behind that. Point out past audits and evaluations and management recommendations that haven't been implemented, and just put it on silver platter saying, hey, this is where you're failing. Here's where you can improve. This is how you do it, as well as bringing in the other parties. So say if it is, what's an example of say Canadian Forces Housing. So,
Yeah.
but the Minister of Public Works responsible for Defense Construction Canada, and then being able to outline another letter to them saying, I've written the Minister of National Defense, just basically spelling out how everybody can work together, because they don't understand how at all.
Yeah, I know. Hey guys, this is so good. Actually, I have to scoot to another meeting. I'm
As do I.
kind of double booked. I would love to so just to respond to you, Peter, I do have stories. I can't always tell them, but I have a couple I'd like to tell you guys about, because they point to things that we've just been discussing. So, but I have to scoot. And this one story I can tell you, it can be recorded too, because it's many years ago and it's resolved in some fashion. So it's a good one though.
Okay, is that for now or for next time
It
we?
has to be next time because I have a meeting with my partners and
Okay,
I'm late.
and I've got to go as well. So yeah, hold that thought, and we'll talk next week. And as always, really meaningful discussions that help frame the things I'm working on, that I'll share once they get to that 95% polished.
I love these conversations. I think that we're making headway, even if it's incrementally. So
Agreed. Progress is progress. Thanks,
yeah,
Kevin.
yeah. Take
Thanks,
care,
Peter.
guys.
Next
See you
time.
guys.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, bye.